story continued from entry for Incubi and Drazar. So you want to know how I joined the troop, the mask. How I became one of the players of Cegorach. The best of the best, from the race at the very pinnacle of existence, the top of the tree. The most elite fighting force in the universe. Well, what can one say? It was a lovely night. I had been entertaining myself with the mirror of my people, the craft worlders. For once I was a Drukhari, my soul slipping into the maw of she who thirsts, every second of every day, every night, every moment. I do not miss the experience. That was my old life, the one where I was about to transcend to what I thought the very height of my calling. For once upon a time, I was a killer, pure and simple, soul as black as night and twice as cold. But now, I am a dancer. I am a lover, a singer, a juggler, an acrobat. I am a player. Although I kill, I am no base killer. And I am as far above the ranks of the Incubi as I are to the meanest ghoul in the Undercity. I am a bauble, a bell on the jester's hat. I am a player, a Cegorach. I am a Harlequin. Before we start properly, a 1-minute word from our video's sponsor. I'll make it brief, but hopefully jaunty. Like Little Red Riding Hood, we walk the forest of the internet every day. We swim in the darkest of waters. But all the while, you must know that you may well be watched. And in the darkness, in the night, they come to take your wealth, your security, and your very identity. Yes, I refer to hackers, a bane and constant fear, especially for someone like me. But there is a solution, a good one. Surfshark. A VPN that's a virtual private network. You sign up, then it acts like a shield betwixt you and a very dark galaxy out there. It provides IP and DNS leak protection. They do not keep logs, so you may surf in total confidence. You can upload to all of your devices all under one subscription. But more than this, Netflix can be unlocked, and other sites that are location-based. BBC iPlayer, Hulu, the list goes on. With two-factor authentication and alerts when someone messes with you or your data. It is now a necessity. So hit the link in the description or go to surfshark.deal/Baldermort, remember the other R, and enter promo code Baldermort, second R again, to get a staggering 83% off. And 3 extra months for free. Yes, that's 83% off. Surfshark. Don't enter the waters without it. And now, back to the action. I turned a corner, ran down a flight of stairs, only to be confronted by the slaughtered remains of my allies. Many of them had been led here from the markings, and one by one it had sliced them to pieces. My squad of scorpions, my shrine brothers and sisters, all dead. Not even a moment to send out a call for help or warning. All were dead. I am their exarch, was. The thing is saving the best for the last, it seems. The sweetest meat for the finale. It darts past a window on purpose. It lets me know I cannot escape. It has kept pace with me. No more. I shall run no more. I stand now, sword drawn with both hands on it as before. In the dark, it moves. I can hear footsteps now for the first time, when it walks out of the darkness, finally allowing me to see it. Tall, willowy, even for one of us. It is one of the dark kin. Its armor black as midnight. It kisses the contours of its frame with such delicacy that it is a second skin. The helmet, like ours, but not. Horns he has, twisted whirls of obsidian. His helm's eyes are red. He steps once more, totally exposing himself to my gaze. He turns on the spot, and when he comes to stop, a huge blade is in his hands. It shimmers, but more eats the light instead of reflecting or generating it. Dark, kin, large blade. It can only be one thing now. An incubus. As I formulate the thought, he is on me. I leap in the air, and his blade circles like a saw as he tumbles towards me. I only barely roll to the side. But as I go to stand, his blade is already at my head level, forcing me to throw myself backwards to avoid it. He follows with such speed and grace that I am dazzled. I roll and skid to my feet and raise my blade to block, but there is no attack. I whip my head around and see his sword slash down on my wrists. In slow motion, I watch them drop away from me, still holding my sword. It clatters on the floor, the fountains of blood erupting from my extended arms mesmerizing. But then I see them closer. Impossible. I pass them, my helm covered in their discharge. I look up at my body as it falls backwards, decapitated. I roll to a stop. My last vision, the boots of this killer. I am sucked into the gem, the stone, my new home for all eternity. I can feel something lifting me up, moving me, caressing the housing of my soul. No. I beg, I plead, I whimper, but it makes no difference. I see a dark hand lifted, dropped. It breaks my shell, my stone. I am floating outwards into eternity in all directions. No. She is waiting. They were right. She is waiting. I stand before the decapitated body of my prey. I have the object I came to gain. His smashed soul stone is all I wanted. My payment to the head of the shrine of incubi I intend to join, and it is in my hand. I turn to make my way to the waiting transports, so I can get back to the Webway portal in the southern hemisphere that our cousins in the Craft World's force have yet to discover. By that time we will be gone, of course. It is then that a new combatant enters the stage. I feel, more than hear, the first of the barrage coming toward me. I turn and my blade is in front of me, whirling so fast it provides a shield. The shuriken that punch towards me are mostly deflected. A few pierce my armor, and small streams of my blood trickle over it. But nothing that will slow me, just sharpen my senses. He rolls towards me, pushing himself into a huge sprung lunge. His left hand over his right, the left contains a dire sword, crackling with the power of old. His right, the shuriken weapon that spits more projectiles at me. I roll backwards myself, under his shot. His sword sweeps down at me as he passes over. I block him with my glaive, but not with ease. This is an exarch of the dire Avengers, one of the most deadly warriors the Craft World possesses, and far more skilled than the one I just decapitated. His armor is well worn and old. He is a truly worthy warrior. I spring to my feet from my shoulders and sweep my glaive up in an on-guard position. He slings the gun and takes both hands onto his dire blade. We pace towards each other, and our dance begins. Our feet moving as fast as our blades, our arms a blur, our weapons create a cascade of short-lived stars as sparks are birthed by our connections. He is much better than any craft worlder I have fought. Much. I have my prize, my pennant of payment, but I find I cannot ignore this joy. So close in skill, but who trumps whom? Our battle continues, but both of us now see another figure in the shadows, one that confidently walks up to us both. We let fly with a score of swift strikes, but disengage and take 3 paces back in a nanosecond. Neither of us know if the new threat is a friend or foe. Although the chances are stacked, that this is another craft-worlder. With a speed that staggers not only me but also my opponent, the being cartwheels and spins in the air and comes down between the two of us. He lunges and darts at one of us, then the other, drawing us both into the conflict at the same time. The craft-worlder is taking my lead after a few strikes only. We attack in combination, he high, me low, then reversed. Yet the Eldar between us is so nimble, so swift, so deadly, that it feels we are the ones on the defensive. Then the stranger bully boys us both out of the door and onto the street. At one point, the Exarch is actually right next to me, parrying so ferociously that neither of us have the time to even flick out one attack on each other. As we are kicked and dodged out of the room, our Wind Rider comes down. His jet bike hugs the ground like he was hunting for us. His shuriken cannon powers its discs of death towards us. We all dodge. The craft-worlder back, I sideways, the third into the air. As the Wind Rider attempts to pass us, the unidentified fighter kicks him off his bike, hard backwards, but he rolls on impact, so perhaps he is Drukhari. This is not normal. I feel joy. The head exhilaration of combat I understand, but this. I bounce on the balls of my feet. I see the Exarch doing the same, less but still there. The Wind Rider is also as charged as we. Something is not right. I can feel something coming from my stomach, from my very core. It cannot be stopped. It is rising. I take a single pace forward, as swiftly as a Gyrinx, and slice towards the landing Eldar. Impossible. He does not hit the ground. I do not hit him. He stands on the blade of my sword. I can feel no weight. Nothing. He looks down on me. I can see him semi-clearly for the first time. It cannot be. It must be. As I stand stock still with my sword out, he balancing on a single toe on its very point. The Exarch is bouncing but not attacking. He is as shocked as I am. The being leaps backwards, with an elegance that makes all of us here look as clumsy and ungainly as Monkey. It wears a coat of every conceivable colour and hue, a mask with a grin and a grimace all at the same time. It is no Eldar, though it wears our semblance. It can only be him. The Wind Rider has least control. It begins from him, and for the Exarch and I it becomes too strong. We both crack at the same time, I think, I hope. As it begins, we join it. We all join it, laughing. It is a great one in person. It can be none but he. He moves to us all, slashing and slicing through our guard, cutting our objects of rank and allegiance from us all, while fighting us all. We try to even act in accord, but he is too fast. And he leads us out of the city. He leads us to a holy place. We fight, run, dodge, moving forever after him now, as he leads us on. Into a forest. Through the woods. And in a dark dell, a place lit only by the blue of the light of the moon, there is a chest. Simple, unadorned, but so beautiful for all of that. Its simplicity is its joy. For some reason, as soon as he stands in the center of the light, he stops. He turns, and he throws open his arms wide, and the box opens of its own accord. Though he be in the middle of the stream of light, none of us can make him out perfectly even so. But it is I who walks first to the chest to look inside. Forgotten are the enemies behind me. The craft-worlders are no longer my enemies, you see. For I reach into the box and take out a mask. A player's mask. And the other two follow my lead. As one, we stand around the being in the middle of us, taking off our existing masks, dropping our weapons, and we don the mask of the player. We don his mark. And then he leads us into a shimmering portal that opens at the wave of his hand, and we each bow to one another, then process as one to the gate, For I am no longer Drakari. They no longer Windrider or Exarch. We are players now. For he has called us personally, and he leads us into our new lives. He is Cegorach, the Laughing God. I am a player of the Laughing God, a servant of Cegorach, and I have been so for more than a century now. Once I was a thing birthed of a wall of flesh and enzymes, dark technology of the homunculi, and from my first breath, I felt the teeth of she who thirsts slowly sucking the soul out of me. I felt her doing it, and the only way I could satisfy her thirst was to throw her the hate and despair of others. I preyed on them, and she preyed on me. Now I am whole. My soul is sworn to the Lord of Laughter, and I play my part in his game. The change was so substantial, I now act as the troop master of the light. 3 troops that act in concert is how we do this. We are of the light. There are those of the dark and the twilight. We perform different acts, different roles, different dances, all with the one aim, but with 3 differing methods of achieving any goal. The dark take insanely at the carnage they deal, but it is often twisted. The twilight can see the mirth in both parties, light and dark, but tread the line between the two. Hardly a description of how we act, but it will have to suffice. We stand atop our star weavers, the rush of speed flowing through our hair, through our souls. 3 troops, yet 6 weavers. The other 3 are void weavers. They spearhead the attack. Sky weavers take our flanks. Their swift bikes skim across the ground, and they take enemies individually with their glaives, take groups with either shuriken cannon or star bowlers. They act as a screen, causing as much mayhem as they can to prevent any mustering at our true target. The main thrust moves forward, but yet none can see us properly. We are but balls of light moving through the air. An ungainly metallic behemoth lurches out to meet us. Its square edges declare it is Monkey design, but the accompanying green buboes and pustules mark it as a thing declared for Nurgle, the vile lord of corruption, of decay. One of the Void Weavers cuts in front of it, and hits it with a spread of haywire cannon shots. We see it flare and fizzle. The technological components power down under the Harlequin of energies unleashed on it. The second Void Weaver darts down and uses its prism cannon to burn a single large shot across and over the horror. The power of light cuts it clean in 2. As things of huge size, encased in war plate, tumble out of the now sheared in half box, the last Void Weaver comes over and shoots most of their number out, with a wide dispersion shot from its prism cannon. Light bathes the area and burns and fries away most of them. 1 or 2 still stagger from the slaughter, but the 3 Void Weavers are not armed with only forward-facing weapons. The shuriken cannons on each turn and targets the lurching remains of the Plague Marine squad and finishes them off. The way is now clear. The 3 Star Weavers come in fast, all aimed on the one place, the Administratum building where this is all centered. The idiot apes opened a rift into the warp, so we are here to close it. The fools. Each Star Weaver tears toward a set stop-off point and does not even slow as the troops leap from their confines. We're of the light. We burst through the doors of the building as heroes resplendent in our entrance. The twilight take to the roof and come down via the skylights, cautious but ready. The dark, we cannot even see ourselves. They slink in the shadows, preparing for a time to lunge out. For the things inside these edifices are nothing to us. They are mere bacteria, and we are the antidote. We leap and bound into the main foyer. Hundreds of the men are supporting themselves on weapons that has guns an opportunity to turn the battle into a burning light show. Our Dathedi holosuits make our outlines burst into balls of colour and light. We cannot be seen properly to target even. The ranked volleys they attempt to hem us in with, to kill us by making there no place to evade, are clumsy and pathetic. Even with the hand of their god guiding them, which we can all feel, they are still unable to harm us. We laugh at their cloddish movements. Our flip belts extenuate our formidable natural agility, and we perform feats of acrobatics that the Monkey can barely see, let alone predict. The firing ends as we make contact with them. Each of us, like farmers, reaping the wheat as if it stood stock still, only waving in the gentle breeze. For it is exactly that. These apes are so slow that we take scores of their heads and limbs as we simply run through them. In our wake a chorus of bodies and bits hit the ground, as none are left alive. But these were just guards. There may be more of the hated Marines inside. It will be a wondrous event in any case. For what we do here today is to strum on the very strings of probability, to play them like a harp. For if we can tip the scales here, then they will rise somewhere else. We know not how the great jape is to be enacted. We do not know one line of the joke. Yet every one of our actions gives power to the trap, builds a tapestry that our Lord manipulates. For we are the dancers of Cegorach. We are his Harlequins, and in him we do trust. Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and important units of the Warhammer 40k universe. The grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. And today, we are to discuss some of the sleekest and most splendidly sinister vehicles in the entire setting. The Harlequins, Starweavers, and Voidweavers. Sinister, I hear you say. Well, yes. For none can ever tell the nature of the jape which the Harlequins will play on those within their sphere. Will it be their comedy and another's tragedy, or vice versa? For the Harlequins are one of the most enigmatic and unpredictable factions in the entire setting. For even on the same battlefield, differing masks and troops take on the many roles in the dance of their kind, and they all perform to the tempo of the trickster's laughter, or caper to the beat of Cegorach's drum. So not even they can fully be aware of how the ballet will develop, but all know that carnage is their coin. The many troops of light, twilight, and dark, they weave their way across the ebbs and flows of the conflict, intertwining as stages to reap a full banquet of woe. Confusion on an industrial scale, but sown with the skill of a master ballerina, the cunning of an Eldar, and the dashing of a daredevil. But they must move as fast in the air as they do on the ground, and thus are some of the most swift and nimble of all vehicles. Only truly matched for speed by dedicated fighters, and even so, their agility is unmatched. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Starweavers. Starweavers hurtle into battle at breakneck speed. The craft swoop and spiral effortlessly through incoming fire, anti-grav engines screaming as they bear their Harlequin passengers unerringly into the maelstrom of combat. These craft are lightly armoured but incredibly nimble. Their agility combines with the lightning reflexes of their crews to ensure that, while enemy ordnance might be able to cut them in half with a single blast, the foe's marksman will barely ever land a telling shot. Further protection is offered by flickering layers of hollow fields and mirage launchers that reduce the craft to little more than a technicolor blur when on the move. Alongside these cunning countermeasures, the Starweaver packs a hefty punch, mounting multiple heavy weapons that provide supporting fire for Harlequin passengers once they have leapt into the fray. These vehicles' shuriken cannons are ideal for scything down enemy infantry, spitting withering hails of fire that shred living creatures in seconds and send the survivors diving for cover. The Starweaver is named for the first and greatest son of the cosmic serpent. Starweaver was the most noble and courageous of his serpentine kin, and swiftly made common cause with the laughing god, whose courage and wildness he greatly admired. The serpent freely gave his aid to Cegorach, and in tales such as the humbling of Eldar or the flight from the grave stars, even suffering the Harlequin's deity to ride through danger upon his back. So do the Harlequins mount their Starweaver transports with reverence, for their actions echo those of Cegorach himself. Void Weavers. The howl of heavy weapons heralds the arrival of the Void Weavers. Considering the lightness of their build, Void Weavers carry an impressive loadout of firepower. However, their lightwork psychoplastics and gravimetric waves ensure that Void Weavers are in no way encumbered by their arsenal. Instead, the potent combination of versatile weapons, hypervelocity attack runs, and polychromatic camouflage make these streamlined vehicles exceptionally dangerous. A full squad can easily rip apart a heavy battle tank, or reduce a squad of the foe to smoking offal with a single volley. Operating as ambush hunters, they strike before the enemy realizes their danger, and scream away before return fire can be brought to bear. An unusual feature of the Void Weaver is its rear-facing shuriken cannon, which can either be operated manually by the Harlequin gunner, or left to follow the guidance of its targeting matrix. The weapon's placement allows it to guard the Void Weaver's rear, laying down soaring arcs of fire against pursuing foes. Even the location of the Void Weaver's aft weapons possesses a ritual significance for the Harlequins. The vehicle is named after the second of the Cosmic Serpent's brood. The legends tell that, ever in its elder brother's shadow, the Void Weaver became an ill-tempered brooding creature. It would fight at the slightest provocation, and revelled in proving its superiority over others. Meanwhile, its caution was such that it sprouted a second head, looking always behind, so the Void Weaver would never be surprised by its foes. In the mythic story, this serpent never allowed Cegorach to ride upon its back, but after a laughing god bested it in a trial of cunning, the Void Weaver lent its strength to Cegorach's own, acting as his sentry and accomplice on numerous occasions. Just as the serpent watched over Cegorach, so do Void Weaver crews lend their strength in support of their comrades. Assuming the part of fanged huntsmen, they are cold and taciturn, yet their scowls turn to hungry grins when given a chance to shed the blood of their foes. Sidebar: Divine Heritage. The myths of the ancient Eldari tell of great heroes who descend from and fought with the gods, and from whom the later Eldari bloodlines can be traced. The greatest of these were Eldanesh and Ultanesh, mighty warriors and firm rivals both. There are almost as many myths concerning these noble figures as they are of the gods themselves, and of course, the Harlequins perform corresponding dances for many of them. The sedeth that accompany these tales are markedly raw and emotional, evoking the achievements of lone warriors in the face of overwhelming opposition, the arrogance and excellence of competing heroes, and the tragic sacrifice of the one to save the many. Particularly visceral is the dance of the hero's demise, which tells the tale of Eldanesh's final battle against wrathful Cain. A mask will enact this performance only in the face of inevitable defeat, sacrificing themselves in as costly and courageous a fashion as they can. End quote. Now these are amazing models indeed. Now I'm actually old enough to remember the first box of Harlequins that was issued, and still have many of them myself, yet I never painted them. You can see why though. They are more than a little bit to chew. Yet I did experience a mild joygasm when I was presented with a new demi-line when it dropped again only recently. I call it a demi-line, as there really are not enough models and variety to call it a faction proper. Now I do bemoan this sort of thing, because let's be honest, if they had but 3 more boxes of models, 3 more units, then the Harlequins would indeed drop the demi title, and be a full faction. But this tiny gripe aside, the Harlequins are some of the most spectacular models that are made by Games Workshop, as with most of their elf lines, in either the Grim Darkness, the World of Wars, or the Planescapes of the Age of Sigmar. It does lead to the question of when the entire Eldar line will be refreshed, as they are more than due for one. Also, why they are not seeming to be working on an Exodite army is pure madness when one considers how wild and wonderful, and thus expensive, they could make them. Let's be honest, they are more likely to be sold out in 2 minutes than a full new squat line. Why on earth are GW leaving money on the table like this? But I digress. The Harlequins are an amazing army, and their lore has really come on in leaps and bounds recently. Pun intended. For they are not the ineffable force they once were, able to be allied with either Dark Eldar, Drukhari, or with Craftworld Eldar. They are now the X-factor that is driving so much of the plotline forward. The Book of Cegorach has opened. The last golden threads keeping it shut have faded, and the players of the Laughing God are now on the move, like never before. For theirs is a game millennia in the making, a game which they state could mean Slaanesh sacrifices herself for the existence of the Eldari entire. And that is a goal worthy of the fighting. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to Harlequin clown cars. If so, then please consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then hit the notifications button, as I would not want you to miss out. If you see the worth in what we are doing, then do also consider joining our Patreon, or giving the video a share if that is beyond your present scope. It will be a great boon. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.